Hey, hey, welcome back to J.P.'s World of Wrestling. I am your man, J.P. So we are continuing on with Halloween Havoc, WCW's October pay-per-view that they did every year, starting with 1989. And so this year is no different, 1994, but what's different is, I should say, there is a difference, in that Hulk Hogan is here. Hulk Hogan has arrived on the scene, and him and Ric Flair had wrestled at Bash to the Beach a few months prior, and, you know, he's here. He's here to make WCW a better promotion. He's here to put eyes on the product. So, you know, he came in with a big buzz, and everybody was talking about it. The whole wrestling world was talking about it. This long time, you know, WWF staple. The guy that's basically built the WWF was now in World Championship Wrestling. He's in a different promotion, but he's still the same red and yellow wearing superhero that we've always known. So he's here at Halloween Havoc 1994. And he's in the main event, which is fitting. So this took place on October 23rd, 1994 at the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, Michigan. And this is it's a pretty good card. It's a pretty WCW-esque card. And I know all of these guys on this card. So let's get to it. So we have Johnny B. Bad taking on the Honky Tonk Man for the WCW Television Championship. This match went to a time limit draw. And I've made my feelings known about time limit draws and double countouts and all that, but that was just the rules of this particular title. You have to beat your opponent within 10 minutes. And Honky Tonk Man was not able to do that. Therefore, Johnny B. Bad, still the champion. But Johnny B. Bad coming out decked out with, you know, vampire teeth and, you know, spider web trunks and all that. But anyway, he won. Take that, Honky Tonk Man. Anyway. So then we had a tag team match for the WCW tag team titles. And we had Pretty Wonderful, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, and Paul Roma. And we last saw Paul Roma in WWF as part of Power and Glory, teaming up with Hercules. But he's here, tagging up with Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful. And their opponents were the champions, Stars and Stripes. The Patriot, and Marcus Alexander Bagwell, also known as Buff Bagwell. Anyway, Pretty Wonderful was able to defeat Stars and Stripes to win the WCW Tag Team titles. Great match, I'm guessing. No, it was a pretty good match. And then we have a match that has a kind of an interesting story to it. We have Dave Sullivan versus Kevin Sullivan. Now, Kevin Sullivan was in WCW for a long time. He was not just, he was a wrestler, but he was also a booker. He was a writer, he was a road agent. He did it all. But his older brother Dave came in as a big Hulk Hogan fan, and, you know, Kevin Sullivan didn't like that. Kept getting in his face saying, you know, we don't need a Hulk Hogan. What are you doing hanging around with this guy? We don't need him. Where was he when we were helping to shape this company and build it? And so Dave said, hey, man, I don't need your approval. I love Hulk Hogan, and I'm a Hulkamaniac to the very end. So they had this big feud. It was culminated in this match where Dave Sullivan defeated his brother Kevin Sullivan by countout. And then we have a United States Championship match. Oddly enough, the champion going in is Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Hacksaw Jim Duggan had won the title from his opponent here, Steve Austin. And it was just because Ricky Steamboat, sorry, my mind went blank there. Ricky Steamboat was the champion before, but he got injured or something, and Steve Austin was able to win the title. And so, on, I think it was a Saturday night or something, Ricky Steamboat was supposed to wrestle Steve Austin for the title. But he couldn't because he was injured, so Hacksaw Jim Duggan step up and said, "Oh, I'll wrestle for you." Oh, and so he gets in there and he actually wins. He actually beats Steve Austin for the U.S. title. So here they are again wrestling at this event in which Steve Austin wins the match, and he wins it by disqualification. Whenever Steve Austin, backdropped Duggan over the top rope and onto the floor. And in WCW at this time, you couldn't do that. You couldn't throw guys over the top rope. So therefore, Hacksaw Jim Duggan's still the United States champion right here. And so then we have Big Van Vader with Harley Race against the Guardian Angel, also known as the Big Boss Man. These two guys had been feuding, both guys, big guys. But in the end, Big Van Vader, with the help of Harley Race, was able to defeat the Guardian Angel, also known as the Big Boss Man. And that was a pinfall victory. So it was a clean, non-disputed victory. And so then we had a tag team attraction. Now I remember this one specifically because I used to have this event on VHS tape. That's right, I had it. And I remember because on this VHS tape, back then WCW would put these video shorts in front of the actual event that would make you, or just somewhere on the tape that wasn't actually part of the original pay-per-view, but it was just something extra to add to the videotape. But in this one, it showed the Nasty Boys sort of out and about in town, hanging out at video arcades, just hanging out, playing video games with kids and stuff. But then it shows the actual match. What's interesting in the closing moments of this match, Jerry Sags actually pile drove Bunkhouse Buck into a pumpkin, because it was Terry Funk and Bunkhouse Buck with Colonel Robert Parker and Ming. And so Nasty Boys win that one. And there was a match early on that I forgot to mention. It was Dustin Rhodes versus Arn Anderson, who was at this time managed by Colonel Robert Parker and Ming. Ming, also known as Haku. But Ming was kind of put, they built him as, he's the toughest guy in the world. He was the bodyguard for the king of Tonga or whatever. And that may be true, I don't know. But anyway, they built him as like this really tough guy. And from what I understand, he actually was a legit, tough guy in backstage. He's not a guy you would want to mess with. Anyway, so then we come to the main event of the evening. This is the big one. This is the big main event. Hulk Hogan to defend the WCW World Heavyweight Championship against the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, in a steel cage match. Interesting enough, so Hulk Hogan had, as usual, Jimmy Hart, his manager, with him. But Ric Flair had Sensuous Sherry, or Sensational Sherry, and the special guest refereeing this match, none other than Mr. T. Mid-1980s television star Mr. T. A petted fool, But he was a special guest referee in this match. And in the closing moments of the match, Ric Flair had managed to handcuff Mr. T to the bottom rope and knock him out. And then him and Sensuous Sherry got in the ring, and they would double team Hogan, beating him up. Because Sherry had climbed over the top of the cage. She got in, and, they were double teaming Hogan. And Sting was sitting at ringside at the time, and he was in a tuxedo. So he tried to climb into the ring and help Hogan, but he got knocked out. He got knocked off the cage and got knocked out or something. But Hogan eventually woke up, and he, was able to, get Sherry out of there. He knocked out Ric Flair. He woke up Mr. T, and Mr. T finally counted 1, 2, 3. Hulk Hogan wins the match, retains the title. And la-di-da, we go on. WCW goes on to new success with Hulk Hogan as their top guy. And you have to kind of wonder, some people speculated that people like Sting might have been upset that Hulk Hogan was there. But Sting himself said, no, actually, I was excited. We got the biggest guy in the world, in the business here in our company. He's going to make us better. He's going to soar us to new heights. And they did for a while. And, due to, certain circumstances, obviously, eventually, WCW went out of business. But here, WCW looked pretty good. They still weren't number one, but you could tell they were being competitive. This was, Eric Bischoff was in charge, and they went back to putting, Halloween theming in the arena. Like, the wrestlers come out, there'd be like gravestones and stuff, and it was a Halloween event. So, but yeah, it's, I thought this is a pretty good event. I enjoyed it. And so that is going to do it for Halloween Havoc 1994. Even though I already did Halloween Havoc 95, I still might do another video because that one was just so unbelievably... Yeah, I think I'll probably do it again just because it was horrible. But anyway, that is going to do it for this video. If you're new here, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.